So, I'm excited today because what I'm going to be sharing with you, if you look at the benchmarks, is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and that's the trend and tradition and how they work and how they're different in different ways. So, it's about the application. So the application for today is going to be a tradition. It's going to be tradition with using 10, 20, 30, and 40 volume, and then going from a level 5 to about a level 8. So you're going to see that progressively soften. I have a benchmark that's done. So when you see it, it's for that client that wants to ease into some dimensional color, but doesn't really want the commitment of the full foil or maybe the balayage or the hand painting. So it's a very commercial, traditional application, but like I said, the trend is going to come in the color choices that you pick, and you could either have commercial or you could have a trend over here. So this one's done with color chameleon that you can see, and I'll share with you the formula on that a little bit later. And this one is done with the formulations that I'm going to share with you in just a moment. So just remember, if you have any questions, you can put them into the chat or comments, and we will get anything that you are curious about. So the color formulations, we're going to be starting, and I always talk about rhythms of color. So I'm going to do, I'm going to move over the flip chart just a little bit so that you can get a really nice feel of what we're doing. And then you can also see the formula. Because if you're a formula junkie like I am, then this is going to help you, I think, to be, kind of give you a little insight on where my head was. Is that centered, Bill? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, and if those of you that aren't following me, we're going to post them on our Instagram. My Instagram is going to, for those of you that don't know, it's George Alderete, or actually it's not. We changed it back. It's George 𝐭𝐡𝐢𝐬. And that's how you can find me on Instagram. So, post-its. Love them and hate them at the same time. So, here's our formula. Let's cut that off. Sorry. So when you look at it, you're going to look at 3 different variations, but they're all within the same family. So this will work for you if you're working with the same family of colors, if you're working with reds perhaps, or maybe you're working with brunettes and blondes. This is really simple to achieve and to do. All you have to do is just think out your theory a little bit. So there's your tradition, really understanding how we can get the levels of lift and the tone that we want with just one application, and creating dimensional color at the same time with not one single foil. That's right, you heard me, not one foil. So, here's the first tinta base color is going to be 30 grams of 523 with 10 volume. So that's going to be the first. And I'm going to show you just a little bit of a smaller head sheet so you can see it. And let me know if that's centered so that you can see that, Jessica. Is that cool? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be carrying our 523. We're going to do the nape area. I've already started that off. I've done that from base to ends, as you can see. And then I'm going to carry that same exact formula of the 523, and I'm going to add 30 grams into the remaining part of the 523, 6.38, which is a beautiful, lovely, balanced, dark blonde with 20 volume. So now I've increased my volume, and the remainder of this is probably around 15 grams, depending on how heavy-handed you are and depending on how much hair you're applying it to. So then we're going to carry over the 523, do the base in the second quadrant, which is this quadrant right here, and I can start doing that for you. I'm just going to put on my gloves. And then we're going to continue all the way to the top. So what you're going to see is you're going to see a really beautiful, if you flip her over, you can see the dark transition into a lighter, into the lightest version of itself. So here's the 5, the 6, the 7, and then the 832. So you're going to get a lot of dimension throughout from the back, bottom part, up to the top. Now you can see a little bit of the strands of color. That's going to be your Freedom Blonde that I decided to paint through as it was processing to see it, just to give you some balance and counterpoints of color from the front to the back. That's really important that you do that, because I really think that color should have some balance when you're looking onto your color. So just when you're looking at her, consulting with her, just think about where you want to place it. And it also is determined by your haircut. So if she has more of a solid shape and you want to do some hand painting or blending, you can do that as well. And that is hand painted with open air with our Freedom Blonde in 20 volume. I only needed 20 volume. Now I know some of you are thinking this color. Well, here's the little secret to that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave out, and I'm going to pull the color through the ends, not all the way to the ends. So we're just going to pull it through, leave a little bit of her natural, because sometimes clients may come in with a dimensional color, a highlight, and if she already has an existing highlight, you might want to utilize that in your application. So that's a smarter way to cut down on your time as well. So this is what we're going to do here, and this is the formula. So if you want to just take a moment and write that down, you can. 638 is our level 6. It's a gold, and then it's got a beautiful balanced brown. So you've got 50% of your base, you've got 30% of your gold, and then you've got just a small percentage of your brown, which is a really soft brown, and I love it because it's just natural and beautiful. And what I love about this is it gives me great gray coverage if I'm ever needing to really soften out that gray and get a good blend. Then what I'm going to do is, as we move up, 7.3, we already have some of that 3.8 in there, so we have a lot of brown. So I only need a color variation with more tone. So this is a composition of 7 with 50-50. So you got 50% of your 7, and then you've got 30% of your gold. So I'm increasing my gold as I move forward, because I have that 6.3 that's going to balance it and bring it just a little bit down more. And you can see that right here. I'm going to show it to you again so you can get a visual of what I'm talking about. So that's the 6 right in through here. So it's gone from a 5, darkest, to a 6. Then I carry that over, touch it up again, because you want to carry over that base. And then I'm going to pull my 7.3. And then as I move forward, you're going to take that section, put it at the base, and pull through your 8.3.2. So you're constantly bringing in the base into the ratio of your color, and by the time you get up to the top, you're going to have very little of that 5. So it's really not a concern, but it just gives you an anchor so you don't have any hot roots. So that's really important, and that's key. Could you do this with an M series? Absolutely. But if you want more tonality, just remember what you're lifting to and the undertone that exists at that lifting point that you're getting to, because that's going to play a big part of your end result. So just always keep that in mind and keep that in the back of your head. So I'm going to ask my handy dandy assistant if he can hand me some water, please, because I'm getting thirsty. I want to show you something that's really important. Jessica, did you have a question?
No, I was going to ask, can you move your formula page closer to the cactus?
You can see my cactus? Well, LB, how about there?
We have a little lag time, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
Clear to the formulation. So, are you taking the 5.23 and then 6.3?
I will continually use this one bowl and carry that one bowl of color. As it gradually increases in the levels, what you're going to see is you're going to diminish the 5.23 as you move up to the top front of the head. So yes, I'm going to always have that 5.23. You can even, hey Tucker, how are you, baby boy? So you could even make this a little bit more if you want. It depends on how much depth you want. So I started with 30 because that's a good amount to use, and then I figured I'm going to use maybe just a little bit of that 30. You can see that I overmixed it. I did a 60 and then I poured it out. But what I want you to see is I want you to see the levels and the trueness of the darkness as we're moving up. So these were already mixed colors. I'm going to be adding them fresh as I work. And then this is the 832. So you can really see the difference in your color choices. So you can see a dark, a medium, and then a light, and that's going to be your gradient. And then a little bit of my beautiful Freedom Blonde. And I love to use Freedom Blonde with 20, especially on color treated hair. You're not going to get the full effect, just remember that, of what a lightener will do on color treated hair. You'll get 1 to 2 levels of light or lift versus the intended levels of lift that you had for that lightener. So let's just say if we have 7 levels of lift, you're not going to get that on color treated hair. If you have 4 levels of lift, you're not going to get that on color treated hair. You're going to cut that in half and maybe get 1 to 2. But here's a little side note for all of you that I want you to consider. I want you to think that when you're doing something like that, what is the history of the hair? What is the amounts of time that she's put color on that hair or pulled color through that hair? Or did they use heat with that hair color? So you have to remember that we at 𝐭𝐡𝐢𝐬 do not use any type of heat. We like to process everything at room temperature. So just keep that in mind when you're using it. Now, if you jump on and you're not a 𝐭𝐡𝐢𝐬 user and you want to ask me, George, what is a 638? Please feel free. Or a 2-3, that's a level 5 pearl gold. It's a beautiful golden beige. So that's just another good decipher to think of when you're looking at it. It's a really nice balanced tone as well. So looking at the sectioning, what I did for all of you is I'm going to show you the head sheets. Hey, Jessica, can you see all that?
Yes, much better, thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to have you put it right next to it so that it's close. And I think this little mannequin is probably going to block the head sheet. So there, how's that?
There's the lag.
Can you see it?
There's the lag.
Let me grab that off though.
You're fine, George.
No, it's underneath the other foot. Okay. Alright. How's that, Jessica?
Good.
Perfect. Alright, so now you can see it really well. So what you can see is I've taken these triangular partings, I zigzag my parting, like you can see down in through here. So we took a zigzag from the high point of the ear and then working it down and all the way across. And the reason why I'm doing that, because if there's any type of blending, this zigzag section is going to allow you to get your blend. Because now those other pieces and those triangular pieces aren't going to give you a hard line. They're going to soften it and they're going to diffuse that color so it blends better as you're working up to the top of the head. The other thing that you're going to be using is the natural graduation. So as you move up with the curvature of the head, you're going to have natural graduation with your application because you're laying it down in a horizontal placement. So that's really key in understanding that so that you know how to get that little bit of a variation of your color. So, taking a little bit of the 5-2-3, we're going to now outline my next section. I'm going to use a small brush for my touch-ups. I like to use the Big Daddy brushes, and I'll show you why in just a second. I like to use them because they're a lot wider and bigger for my application on my touch-ups. So I like to use this type of brush. For this size of application and partings, I'm going to use a smaller brush, and the reason why is because I can have a little bit more control in outlining my sections. So, this is going to be the 5-2-3 that I used here in the first section. So we're carrying it over, and then I'm going to release this section after my application of the outline. And if you like, some of you prefer to maybe do an isolation, cover it with a foil to protect it, you absolutely can do that. That's absolutely fine. So we're going to work all the way up into the top. So you can see it here. I'm going to turn her around so that you can see it. There she is there. I'm going to work that through. There's my outline complete. That's my dog Tucker. He's a little big mouth this morning. Sorry about that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to continue and take those sections in. I'm going to release this hair because this is going to be my next section that I'm going to be coloring. And what I'm going to do, just to save time, is I'm going to take vertical sections and apply my base color that I have now. I haven't mixed in my next color yet. So you're going to continue with that same 5, 2, 3. You're going to smudge it in, get a really nice little regrowth. And we're going to work that way, in that direction. And again, I'm working from left to right. So what I'm doing is I'm just creating vertical sections, because it's easier to work in that section that way than working up horizontally. This will save you a little bit more time. So then we're just going to continue all the way through. And jump in anytime if you have any questions at all. I hope all of you had a great weekend. It was absolutely beautiful here in Atlanta. No rain, but it definitely is starting to feel like autumn. So here we go here. And the reason why I love this technique to work with in the salon is because of the time saving. You can actually do a touch-up, and then if you wanted to create a little bit more dimension, just think about it. It's really one formula. All you're doing is graduating up to the next formulas as you're moving. So you're utilizing just about the same amount of color for, let's just say, a touch-up and a refresh. So we're going to go here. Now this is going to be all the way. I'm leaving the sides completely different because I want to handle those differently when I do my application, because what I want to do is concentrate on the layers of the haircut that are going to be created within that area. So now that I've completed that, I'm going to add my next color, 30 grams, 638. We're going to take those same sections. My application is going to be my 3/8. We're going to get a really nice blend by smudging that through. And I'm just going to leave some of those ends out a little bit. So I'm not going to pull it all the way through. We're just going to go to that line. Now remember, just blending it in. I'll turn her for you so that you can see it. There it is there. And then I'm going to go to the next section here. And again, applying. I've now added my 638 with 20 volume into the bowl of the 523, which I probably just have maybe no more than 15 to 20 grams, depending, like I said, how heavy-handed you are in your application. So now we're just going to work this section through again. You can see
George,
the
is it possible for you to get closer to the camera? They're asking if you can zoom in to see the application.
Yeah, absolutely. Would that be closer?
Well, we can.
I can't see it, so I can't tell you.
Is that better? So what we can do is I can move the table in front of me and pull the camera forward.
I'll do that. You just keep working.
So I'm going to keep working. We're going to just do a little bit of an edit right here. So you can all see it better. So Bill's going to scooch this table over for me. Oops, that's my other color.
It's gonna be noisy.
It's going to be noisy. How's that?
That's fine. Go ahead.
Is that better?
Yes.
Hold on 1 second. I see you dancing with her right now. Yes.
Much better?
I'm really sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bill,
You're welcome.
So
Here's
now
the-
what I've done is I've, let me just bring her up a little bit so that you can get a better view of her. How's that? Is that better?
They're fun.
Okay, good. Now I'm going to work from side to side. I've completed this side. I usually work all the way to the center. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And like I said, if you might want to leave those ends out a little bit, that's going to help you to create a little bit more dimension when you hand paint your Freedom Blonde all the way through on some of the areas. And now you can also mimic the area that you took out, like a little bit of a upside down triangle, and then that's what you're going to put the lightener through. Okay. You can see the dark to the light already blending there. Here's my next section. Now this is the 6, 3, 8 added to the 5, 2, 3. So I'm working with about 40 grams of color right now, just so those of you that are measuring it out in your head, because I know there's a lot of you out there like me, always trying to figure out not overusing color. This will help. So now, once I've completed this section, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to add my 7.3. But don't forget, you got to touch up the base first. So we're going to go through, work that color in, drop that down, drop that down. There's my sections, and you can really see how that section dominates now that the color is being applied. So you can see that those are zigzag. There's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And then we're going to move to the sides and then the top. It's one of the simplest applications, but it's the ratio of colors and the choices and the tones that you use. So you can do this red on red. You can do that with color chameleon. You can do it just about with any color choices. Just remember to keep them within the range of each other in the same line. So you're going to just work up the line. That's what I'm doing. So 5, 2, 3, 6, 3, 8, 7, 3, 8, 3, 2. So they're all within the same family. And then this is going to be the type of result that you're going to get. But I love the fringe because the fringe is the lightest. And that's a 10, 3, 2 pull through with just some of the tipping of the Freedom Blonde, just a little bit. I just took little strands. And then throughout the side, what you can see is you can see, in the sides you can see the dark, medium to the light. So now you get a soft, soft dimensional color without any frills at all. So this would be beautiful to work. What do you guys think? You like it? Pretty? Love it.
What was your inspiration?
My inspiration was I was really looking at a lot of stuff online, and I've been seeing a lot of tie-dye, and I've been seeing a lot of dip dyeing, and I could see the really nice fading from dark to light, and that was my inspiration because I wanted to know how can I mimic that, but yet get a real commercial result, a traditional result, or get more of a trend result with brighter colors. And I was just thinking, we do it every day. We do it with highlight and maybe getting a lightener and doing it and alternating the packets so you get variations of tone, but how can I do it in one step? So that was kind of my influence. I'm seeing it a lot in a lot of graphics and artwork. I also just like that beautiful blend and fade. I just think it's so pretty when you look at it. So that was my inspiration. Thank you for asking. Great question. So now what we're going to do in the third section is you can really see how those sections dominate and they're going to fall through. And because they're zigzags, they're always going to blend into the next section. So now we're going to take our next color variation, 30 more grams of 7.3, 30 volume now, and we're adding it to what's left. So you can see here at the base, we're always touching up the base with the color from before the section. So right here is the 523, the 523, and then the 523 and the 638 pull through, and then right here you're going to have the 638 and a little bit of 523 that's left, and then you're going to put the 7.3, add it to that, and you're going to pull that through mid lengths to ends, and then the final one is you're going to carry this formula over to the base, and then you're going to add the 832. You're going to add 30 more grams in that and pull that through, and then once you're done, I'll show you how you're going to hand paint it. Are there any questions?
Yep, I have a question.
Awesome. Oh, hi, Paige. At 124, thank you for that question because it's really good. So let me just make sure I have the question correct. So the question was, can I do this with a touch-up or a recolor for fall? Am I on the right track?
I'll repeat it for you, hon.
All right.
Would this work best as an easy tint back for fall winter for blondes who do not want to lose their brightness?
Yes, and I would definitely do it with semi. So if you look, the only one that we don't have in semi would be your 7.38. So that's why I'm using 7.3 because I always feel like that reflection you need it and it'll be brighter and softer. But you might switch to a semi color and use that only because that blonde, 9 times out of 10, is going to change her mind again and want to be blonde again. So it would be much easier to take and remove the semi-color, or it releases from the hair a lot more simply than a tint would. So that's a great question. Thank you, Paige.
Awesome. Another question is,
Oh, and just to be clear on that, for those of you that don't know what our semi is, because I had this conversation with 124 just the other day, it is our demi. It's our demi permanent color, and it has an activator that works with it. So that would be the dedicated activator that you use for it. We have activator and red activator, and I'll tell you a little bit about those. Go ahead, Jessica, please.
Sure. Marco wants to know, what is the local started with?
What is the local?
The level of the mannequin.
Okay, so this is a blonde. She is Emma Light. Emma Light tends to be between a 6 and, pardon me?
Between a 6 and an 8.
Yeah, between a 6 and an 8 they vary, but they're really beautiful to blend, and they're a dark blonde, if you will. So I would just say if you never can remember which level to work with, I always work and formulate thinking about the darkest level first. So I consider it a 6, and that's what I formulate from. If you feel like it's a 7, then formulate from the 7. But the only thing with that is you may overshoot your base color, and it may become a little bit too warm. So just consider that, so that you can always formulate appropriately. Okay. So now that we've completed that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the 7.3, and we're going to just pull those 3 on those sections. Great question, everyone. Thank you for that.
Is your lovely lady that you're working on right now, is she pre-lightened?
Great question again. So yes, she was a technique that I used before. I had baby lights throughout, so you can see that her level is looking a little bit lighter than they usually are. I don't have an Emma light here that I can show you, but this is her base color with some highlights in it, and they're just cream blonde, and they're very soft. I think cream blonde and 20 volume. So it's a very soft blonde, but yes, it was already on the lighter side. And that's why I think she's a perfect candidate to do this color back. So we're just going to work through now our 7.3. We're going to work that through. And the other thing I like, because of the translucency of Tinta, is even though she's got these beautiful highs and lows, it's going to mimic those highs and lows with the application. So your translucency is going to be really, really beautiful reflect and a lot of definition because of what's already there. So you can see right here in my hand, you can see that cream blonde right there, and then you can see her natural blonde. So yes, there is a little variation, but Tinta will also pick that up and give you a beautiful dimensional color in one step over existing highlights. So it's beautiful to work with. It's one of my favorites. Okay, so this is a blonde. And once I complete this, I'm going to then take it, carry this through, get my saturation really well done here, drop that out, work to the center. And the reason why I work to the center is because of my body position. I really feel like it's important that you have your body position in front of your work instead of trying to work over it. And whether you're left or right-handed, where you put your tray also will affect your color application. So try not to work too hard. And remember, her chair moves, so you can always move her just a little bit. So now I'm just going to continue on this side and move over into the center. So now my body position is a lot more parallel to what I'm working on. So that's really important. The other thing I love about tinta is the way, the spreadability that you get with it. And you're going to notice that some of the tips are left out. That's okay. I usually like to pull through on a color refresh the last 5 to 10 minutes of my process. I like to pull it all the way through. I don't usually pull it all the way through. Its porosity takes a really big part of it. What's existing already does. So in toning, I really want to make sure that the porosity doesn't grab the base of whatever I'm doing it to. So I always just let it set, and it's going to take it and suck it all in anyway. So it's really important that you also gauge the porosity.
Which size sections are you taking?
Okay, so this one in the middle is a good, I'll show you. This is, because it is a triangle, so you can see that this is going up to the width and then narrowing out. So I would say it's about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch in the center, and then back into 1/4 inch down through here. Great question, thank you. And I'll show you exactly what they look like when I place them down. If I could get a foil, I think it would be easier visually to see it so that you can see the type of sections that I've taken. So this is the V section here. And if I lay it on the foil, you can see how it sits. And you can see that it's a triangle section up at the top. And you can see the other sections right here as well. So you can see how they're inverted on those sections. Can you see that? And those are likely to be the ones that I'm going to place and hand paint some of my Freedom Blonde on. So that, there you go there. And you can see all the variations of the tones going from the darker to light. Now that we've completed that section, we're going to move to the sides. These are really key because the sides, I think, they want to see it head on, and when they see it, they're going to want a little bit more lightness and brightness. So I want to make sure that I give them what they're asking for. And I'm just going to take this section. I'm going to take the high point of my brow bone as my visual guide. I'm going to rock my clip right into there. I'm going to work it up to the top, and I'm just going to take that section right out. I'm going to lay that over, clip it out of the way. And this is going to be the section within the sides that I'm going to be working on. And now you can really see the definition of the color. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my 832, but before I do that, I'm going to take my 7-3, my 3-8, and my 5-2-3, that's whatever the remnants are left. And we're going to touch up her base, especially around that hairline that's so stubborn all the time. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out zigzag sections. There's my first one. And now I'm going to add my 8-3-2. Here's my 7-3, 6-3-8. Here's my 8-3-2, and we're just going to take that lighter color in through the very light. So now what we've done is we've gone from a 5 to a 6 to a 7 and then an 8. So I'm going to use this comb, one of our trios, because I love the way I can use that instead of having one more tool in my hand, which would get me a little kind of confused. So I'm just going to work that through. Leave that out. Work that in. Now that's not to say that you could take your 5-2-3 all the way and marry it all the way and get more definition. You can absolutely do that if you want to. I just like the soft blend that I'm achieving with the 5-2-3 as I'm diluting it up through those sections. There we go there. There's another one. You want to always touch up your base with the first color, and then you mix it in with the 832. So it's always going to have a little bit of the remnant of the color from the previous section. Just remember that. And by doing that, you're going to get a better blend. There's that. There's that. That's my 832. Are you guys with me so far?
It's awesome.
Okay, good.
I'll be making my appointment next week.
We've been saying that for a while. And so much happens that we get busy. But yes, anytime. So now that section is complete. Now we've finished that. I'm going to finish the other side. But before I do that, I want to just talk about a little bit about the trend color, the fun color. So I'm going to take this color off really quick so I can pull it over so you can take a look at it. Now this was done with semi 567 at the very base, so you can see the depth, the deposition of the color. And I did do a section that was, all the way through down in the bottoms. I had lighter highlights in it, so it really took the color a little bit bolder. And what I did from there is we worked with the 5, 6, 7, all the way at the base. Then I worked up with the red, and then I alternated in this one. Instead of just the red, we did the red and then the orange. I did do 20 grams of red with 1 gram of dark. I wanted a little bit richer red and a little bit smokier. So if you're ever using Color Chameleon, remember the 9 shades that we have, 2 shade shifters, clear and dark. And what they're going to do, the clear will give you more pastel variation. And if you look at the chart, Bill, can you hand me the chart really quick? The Color Chameleon chart. When you look at the chart, you're going to see different variations of mixtures that you can do. So we have a 1:5 ratio, meaning 1 part of color to 5 parts of clear. And then we have a 1:1 if you wanted 1 part of clear or 1 part of dark. And so what you can do is you're going to see that on the chart, and the chart will always tell you what it's going to look like visually. So when you see that, you're going to have all these little reference points down here on the side on what to mix, and what green would look like with its different levels of lift or lighting. Sorry, it's a direct dye, so what you see is what you get in the bowl. So I mixed that red with just a gram of the dark, and then what we did with the orange is I mixed equal parts of orange and yellow. And that gave me a really beautiful brighter orange, but not like an orange, deep orange. It just intensified it a little bit more. So as I worked up to the front, then what I did in the fringe area, because that was the dominant part of the haircut that I could see, I finished it with a little bit yellow underneath, just so you have a peekaboo with the orange, and it gives it that really pretty bright tone that you see in there with the red. And this is also a little shag haircut that I've been playing with that someone did for me.
First, we have a couple questions for you.
Sure.
Julie would like to know, can you apply this on freshly shampooed hair that's towel dried?
Which one? The Color Chameleon or the Tinta?
For clarity, if it's your blondie or your redhead. But while we wait for that, Paige would like to know.
Hi, Paige.
She would like some clarity. So whatever color, and this is your one you're working on now, so whatever color was used through the mid shaft and ends, then in turn becomes the retouch color for the next section?
Correct. Great, Paige. That was awesome. So yes, so let me just review this really quick so you have a clarity on it. So what I've done is you can see the mannequin here, right? And you look at the head sheet. Can you see them both? Can you see them both? Here, I'll do this. Paige, can you see them both now together?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what you're going to see here, this is going to be the 523 underneath. And that was a zigzag parting. I left it, and whatever was left in the bowl, I then added my 638 30 grams. I added with plus 30 grams of 20 volume into this section here. So you can slightly see the graduation of the color or the tone go up in level. Just a little bit, not too much. But you're always marrying that 523 in there, and that's what actually carries itself all the way through, and that's why it blends. So that's key. That's important that your base color is the color that you want to anchors all those colors all the way through. And then what I did was I took the 638, added it to that. Before I did that, I think this pertains to your question, I took the 523 and I touched up her base on the next section. Then what I did was I added the 638 to the 523 and pulled that through, mid legs to end. And then I did the same thing here. Touched it back up with the 638, a little bit of the 523, right? That's in there, but it's a little bit lighter. Then I took my 7.3, added it to that same bowl, added another 30 volume, refreshed it, and then pulled that through. And then when I got up to here, I have a little bit left in that bowl. And what I did was, I took my 832. I felt like if I would have done an 838, it may be too browned out. It may toned it down too dark, and I wouldn't have gotten the difference between the 3.8 and the 3.2. So it's really important that you can see that. But yes, you're always carrying your base over to the next section from what you used, and then you're adding your color in the next level with your developer into that and carrying that through. So there's your theory, because now you're going up a level and you're also increasing your developer as well. Okay? Great question, Paige, and I hope that answered your question.
She said yes. I got clarity on Julie's question on can you apply this to freshly shampooed towel dry hair, and she's referring to both of your applications.
Okay, so for Tinta, I like to, if it's clarified, she walks in as is, I'm good with it, she can have a seat and we can do the application. If it's a color chameleon, I did work on her a little bit damp. So I did shampoo her first. I took my sections, I left them out because you can use it on damp or dry hair. So what I wanted to do was, I figured why would I have to blow dry it and then start over? I can use that, and I used a semi-color on her base, so it was perfect. So yes, in this particular instance, I did it on towel dry hair and really getting that moisture out, taking it and doing my sections, and then did my application. So yes, I did. And over here, on Emma Light, what I did was I already had shampooed her, I blew her out, she was dry, I did my sections, and then I did my application right here for you. So yes, I would do this dry, and I could keep this one towel dry. Cool? So now we're going to take, I hope that answered all your questions.
So far, so good.
Awesome. And we're going to take that little V out again. Take this section. Take that one out again. Take that section. I'm going to turn it around so you can see it. Take that one out. And the reason why I'm doing these V sections is because it gives me a good reading for my application of my lightener when I'm freehand painting it. And that's really important because you want to see where you're going to put those highlights. So there it is there. I'll turn her in just a second so that you can see it. And if that works for all of y'all. And then, of course, the beautiful little hairline. And I'm just smudging it in the hairline. I'm not really pulling it all the way through because I really want the lightest pieces to be in the very front. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those same sections that we touched up, and now I'm going to pull through my 832 so that you can see that. And then we'll work up to the top. So work that through. Work this section through. So you can start to see where your sectionings are by just using your subsections as your guide. And that's really key. So we're working that through. I'll do this one because that's the next one I want. Now this is all 832. And this is now with 40 volume. That through. Okay, thank you. How are we doing on time, Jessica?
You've got about 14 minutes.
Who is that man that talks too much on that, in front of that camera? Who is that big mouth? Tell him to shut up. All right.
That's great information.
Okay, great. There we go. Now that we've completed it, I'm going to continue with my 832. That's going to be my top color. So when you look at it, see how the base is not as dark as the base was in the back? So now you see it's got a slight graduation of dark, medium to light. And I think it's a beautiful color for someone that wants dimension but doesn't want that full-on dimensional like highlight look. It's just a soft glow of color, and it really especially looks beautiful with redheads. So now we're just going to paint this section. I'm going to take section straight across because this is the last section that I'm going to work with. Pull that through, pull that through, and then I'll take my zigzag sections when I'm doing my Freedom Blonde color. Pull that through. Now remember, I was working with a mannequin that did have a fringe already existing. So if you're working with somebody with longer hair like this, and you know that fringe is going to be just landing right about here in the very front, right about there, right above the brow of the bone right there or below it, then you just know that you have to concentrate on this area for the lighter pieces, not so much here because you're going to be taking that away. So just remember, always just consider that when you're doing your application. Don't waste your time or the money of using the product. So we'll do that, we'll do that. Now that's going to sit. And the reason why I'm pulling it away from the face is it just gives me that option to keep it out of her face. And I'm just softening that through. Then what I'll do is I'll paint everything. And now I'm going to pull it down to the sides because that is where it lives. I would pull it away from itself, but remember, it's going to sit right here. So now there's my zigzag.
Color.
And now I'm pulling through my 832. There's my other zigzag.
So Debbie would like to know, how did you come up with this great idea? I know you mentioned it earlier, but I don't know if she heard yet.
Dark to light. So many years ago, I had a friend that I worked with that is an extremely, I would say, technical colorist. So there's my V pattern there, a technical colorist. And we were discussing light to dark and how we could utilize at that time. We were talking about, you know, the alkalinity and the color, which one gives you the lift. And so we decided to work on something called dark to light. And that is this technique. So it's something that I've had in the back of my head that I've worked with so long ago. And I thought, you know what, it's something great that I think I could share that could help people to save time. So that's what I'm sharing it. And the person that I have to give credit for this great idea and collaboration was Deb Rosenberg. And maybe some of you that know who I'm talking about would know who she is. She's out of Philly. All right, so now what I'm gonna do, since we're just gonna go through and highlight, and if you could, I'm going to start taking pieces that I see. Now I'm going to add to the dark underneath here. I'm just going to take a small section of that section, and I'm going to just place some of my Freedom Blonde onto the tips.
Up.
Okay, I'm going to work up in a minute.
And
And I'm just taking it
There you go.
just onto that and blending it through with my fingers. And some of the blonde pieces that are already out, here's that triangular parting. I'm working that through. So you're going to get more of a tone on tone. So the question might come up, do you have to tone this? No, because by having that color already in that mid shaft and pulling it through, there was no toner. So when you look at the mannequin that I've done, you're going to see that there's no color that's been applied, or no toner or glaze that's been applied to this mannequin. So that is the truest of the A32, blending through some of that Freedom Blonde, and that's what's giving you the tonality, and that's what's giving you that variation of color. And I think the best way to see it too is if you ever really want to see your blends, or you want to see if your placement's done correctly, if you turn her upside down and take a look, that'll always tell you exactly where that color is that you're putting it. Can you see that? And there she is. So now I'm painting through on some of the pieces. I'm just working through with my Freedom. You can start to see that section, and that section that you see how there's areas in between. You want those subsections to be in between, because if you don't, what's going to happen is it's going to be a chunk of blonde. So you really want to see the separation of the blondes. Like this section is over here, that's where it's going to live, so that's where I'm going to place it. Now maybe I want a section underneath in between that's over here. And remember, they're all going to pick up different highlights because of the tonality of the base that you have throughout the ends. That's really important. And then when we work in the front, we're going to do the same thing. And what's nice about that section, it's very similar to a balayage section. So I'm going to paint it up and through the front, paint it all the way through, just in case I keep it longer. And now I have that section that's going to be hand painted throughout. And then I'm going to hand paint some of those pieces all the way through, in through the sides and in through the front. And that's going to be the variation of colors that you see here. So, any questions? Yes.
George, if you didn't want to use a decolorizer, what shades in the blonde series might you use instead?
I would use the one that's going to enhance the most, and that's going to be, you could either do 2000, okay, with a booster. I do 30 grams of 2000 with a booster, or you could use your 1500 series, which would be nice.
Shade.
Oh, are you asking for shade?
Yeah, I mean, she's saying blonde series, so I would say yeah, keep going. You're right.
Okay.
My mindset's right.
Yeah. Or you could use the 1000 series. If you want to just use something simple, just to soften it and push it up a little bit, you know, you could do that. Now, in order to get the brightness that I got out of this was pre-lightened. I just blended those pieces, big triangular pieces underneath, so that I could get more definition and pop of color. Now, if I wanted something like this, more commercial, then you could opt to pick something that's not as light or lifting, that if you have to set her there for a little bit, you can actually go in with a 1500 series, and I would use 1531. And the reason I would use that is because that is going to be the most complementary to any of the tones that you have that are blending through it. If I use a 17, I might take away or I might neutralize. Do you see what I'm saying? Or if I use a 19. If I want to enhance the color that I'm working on, I'm going to go with the safest one, and that for me would be 1531. Okay? And again, you could use, I was thinking of 1038. 1038 would also be beautiful, because it's also within that line of your 38 series, but with a high lift, and I can use 30 volume. So I can paint that through and just get a softer push of color that you see throughout the mannequin. So just to recap for all of you, I took zigzag sections in through the bottom, just like this. There's your 5, 2, 3. You can see where the Freedom Blonde is blended. I did another one in through this area, carried your 5, 2, 3 up into here, and then we added 6, 3, 8, and we pulled that through. Then once I worked up and through here, I touched it back up with the 6, 3, 8 and the 5, 2, 3, and then carrying through my 7, 3 all the way up on top. And then as I got to the split of the head, top of the ear, I started to add carried over my 7, 3 at her base, right? And then I pulled through my 8, 3, 2 onto the very front, and that's the end result. Then I just hand painted very slight, I mean really tiny pieces. I wanted it to be as commercial and really have that 8, 3, 2 dominate the color. And then through back, I just painted it on, and I left this on for just maybe 10 to 15 minutes processing time, and just looked at it that way. So that is my trend and tradition class. So you can also be very trendy with it. You can also, hand painting is a trend, and I was thinking about that as well. Hand painting for me, I think, has been really, really great, but how can we utilize it in a different manner? And I think we can use it by using one different formula in one area and elevate all the way up to higher towards the front, and then accent that. So that's what I call trend and tradition, where you're actually uniting the two, and this is what you're going to end up getting. I hope you guys had a good day today. I had so much fun creating this for you, and I can't wait to see all of you again next time. I want you guys to have a really good, safe, and a happy day. I'll talk to you guys later. Jessica, thank you very much for everything.
Thank you, George.